What's up, guys, and welcome to the Galaxy Garage. And today I got a call from management, and I have to pull off of my container build, and I have to build a marquee number. It's a marquee number right here, guys. So my wife came to me about a year ago, said she was going to buy one of these that had the bulbs that are down the center, and it was going to be for my nephew's birthday party. And of course I went over and no, he's not 0. I built a 1, but I also built a 30 for a good friend of ours at her birthday. And so I have now been called and told that I need to do a 4. Good friend of ours turning 40, so we want to try to get him a marquee sign for all the women to take their pictures in front of. I promise you the men don't care about this. But I've been asked to have this done by Saturday, so I have to build it and wire it and paint it, and I'm going to take you guys through those steps. Alright guys, here we go with the marquee number. What I'm using here is a 1/4 inch, 2 foot by 4 foot pre-cut, and I buy this from my local Home Depot. And I'm just going to map this thing out. And the inside cut, I don't ever have a template for this. I just know that the inside thickness of the 4 that I want is going to be 8 inches. And I use that thickness on all my numbers. And it just seems to fit very well. So I'm just going to run all the way around and, measuring out 8 inches all the way around this whole 4. And not very hard. It goes pretty quick on measuring this out. Take a quick look at it. Looks great. Keep going. Go ahead and do that centerpiece. A small little triangle. This is where I was looking at that bottom of the 4 and I was like, wow, that looks too small. Should have made it a little wider, but I just left it and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna let it play out and see what happens. But again, just marking out that 8 inches, making sure that I'm keeping that consistent all the way around. Mark everything with an X. Grab my jigsaw and go to town on this bad boy. There we go. I got my vacuum hose with me. Not a lot of dust on this 1/4 inch, but you still don't want to be breathing that stuff in, and I hate when that stuff gets on me, and it's a little hot in my garage, so I get a little sweaty. I got my fan going on behind me, but I still want to kind of control that dust a little bit and making sure that it's not going all over the place. MDF is my favorite to work with, even though I know it's not good for you, but there's just so much you can do with that material. Make pretty quick work of it here with this jigsaw. And my center punch, you see how I do my center punch here. I just kind of lay my blade to the side and just go right into it. Got to get a crazy angle on it in order to do that. I don't recommend it, but I've been doing it for so long, I'm so comfortable with it. Give it a little clean. There's your 4. Alright, so now we're going to start ripping down the 5-inch walls. I cut these at 5 inches. And I usually use MDF, and they had some there, but it was at the very, very top shelf. And I had to wait for the lift driver, and I was like, you know what, I'll just go with this plywood. So it's 1/4 inch plywood that I'm using here. But yeah, and then I'm going with a 3/4 inch pine. This was a 1x4 that I had. 3/4 inch by 4 that I had laying around. And I just rip it down about 3/8 of an inch thick. And it's just some leftover. I usually use white pine, that way it's a lot smoother. This does have a lot of knots in there. If you can tell, it fell off the back of the saw and it came back shorter. It broke with the knot that was in it. So
But I still had enough. I was able to cut both pieces down and still have enough. And this is going to be my top cap on the floor. You'll see what I'm talking about. There we go. There's my 5 inches, and there's my 3/4 inch by 3/8 top cap. So we're just going to start running through this. Just glue, brad nails. Sorry guys, I didn't realize the camera was facing so low. I tried to put it on the focused on the table and didn't realize that I was going to have my piece pulled towards me. And if you're ever doing this, you know, don't worry about sitting here and trying to do 45s on this. You know, that's just, it's nonsense to try to do a 45. Just do butt edges on this and sand it down. And, you know, I don't even do any sanding when I get to the painting part of this. I just put, you know, some coats of white on it, and that was it. But yeah, you're just gonna run through it quick. You don't need to sit here and do these 45 angles. Just make sure that you're at a 90-degree angle in your miter saw or whatever you're cutting with, and you know, you basically hide all that. You're not gonna take close-up photos of this anyway, so here we go. Got my angle, and I will explain to you here in a little bit in this video on how I got that angle. I know it might be some questions, and I don't get into like full details. It's just going to be a small little breakdown on how I got the angle that I got. But there are a lot of videos out there, a lot of videos on how to find angles on corners, so you could, you know, take the material to your saw and get that cut. Oh, there we have it. I'm going to glue that up. And I do add some tape here, some blue tape, and that's just for just extra support. I didn't really need it. I popped some nails in there that was holding it. And here we go. Is the last piece here. And again, it's all just flush fits. That's it. No mitered cuts. It just makes it too much more difficult to try to get a miter cut on such a small piece of wood. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and get that inside triangle of the floor. We'll add brad nails on top here, and then I realize that I can't get one in there. It's just going to pop out the other side, so I just add some tape. And that tan masking tape works very well. It's very strong. So I'm going to add that on the back side here because I can't get my gun in there either. And we're just going to tape that down. Now I'm going to start running the top cap. This top cap really brings it all together. Then it's going to hold everything together. And again, I don't do mitered ends. I don't 45 any of the corners. You know, just for something that somebody's going to use for a couple of hours just to take some photos, it's, you know, it's not worth it. If you can cut them straight and get them flush, it looks great. And here there's a little bit of, you have to remember that the lip is what I'm going for, and the lip is what's going to hide the LED. So you can see I add that small piece there, and that's to make sure that I'm cutting it the right length, that when I add the rail that runs from there, it's going to have that, it's going to line up perfectly. And there we go. And the same thing here. Anytime you're doing a cut that's going to go on the inside of the box for, or any number that you're doing, you got to make sure you're adding that lip. I learned that from mistakes. Now I'm cutting it flush to the outside edge. Yeah, I started working so fast and I realized, like, oh God, I didn't measure it the way I was supposed to. And the box goes together pretty easy. I mean, I built it all in one day. Took a few hours to get it built, so they're very quick to put together. couple of brad nails. And here we go. This is my angle finder. This is where I'm going to explain right here. So I had 122. So you would divide that by 2 and it gives you 61, and then you take that over to your saw. And always remember that on your miter saw, when it is sitting at 0, you are cutting at 90. So then you just go backwards from there and you end up with 61. And again, you can find plenty of videos online. So I'm using some Bear premium paint that I always buy, and I use this a lot. I just love the way this flat paint works, and it's flat sealing white paint. That's all it is. And the reason for going with, you know, a flat white is that you don't want the LED to glow or reflect off of anything. And with this flat white, it will not reflect off of it, and it makes that white glow. My wife did make me go back and when I first did the one for our nephew, she made me go back and paint it this high gloss white paint, and she was like, I want it white gloss, it has to be white gloss, and I want to be able to see my reflection. And I was like, that's not good, so I went and did it just to please her, and I came back and I turned the lights on, and all you could see were the reflection of each diode that was on there, and it was horrible. And I said, that's why we go with flat white. It absorbs all the color and it makes it glow. And you can see that if you've seen my Instagram page. You can see where I posted them, and they just glow. So I'll just run through this, and I end up putting 3 coats on this. I don't show it in the video. It's just, I thought this was too long. I was like, man, I gotta voice over all of this. But you don't see it in the video either, but it takes 3 coats, and you want to make sure that you're getting a very good coverage on it, and that, because you really want it to glow, and that white paint will glow. There we go. That way nobody will say, well, you missed a spot. No, I gave it 3 coats. And there we go. You could tell the difference there. So here's the LED strips that I buy from Home Depot as well. They're EcoSmart LED strips, and they're cuttable. And they are, I love working with these things. I put them in a lot of my projects that I do. And I think everybody probably uses these, but I'll put these down below in the description. And you can cut these in 3 inches and 6 inches. And then I'll just run all the way around the piece, and it's just basically taping it all down. Measuring it out. You can see right there I couldn't fit one. It's less than 3 inches, it's not going. Now these can get a little pricey. They used to be cheap. I used to buy an 8-foot roll for, $18, and now you buy an 8-foot roll for like $30. So these LEDs can get a little pricey when you're doing these projects. And if you're using these type, it used to be cheap, and you can buy some cheap ones, but they've gotten kind of expensive. And here I am opening a brand new box, and I realized, like, hold up, I have some left over from an old project, and there we go, it worked out. I almost forgot to do the centerpiece. There we go. So this is after, we're getting ready to do some soldering here, and it's peeling that little plastic coat off, and try to zoom in so you guys can see it. And there's 4 small little soldering points there and that's what we're going to go for. I don't get too much of the soldering in the video. It's just, you know, soldering is soldering. And now if you notice, I'm putting the LED strips upside down, and the reason for that is that when you're measuring your wires this way, you want to make sure that you're measuring them in the direction that your LED is going to be placed. So if I were to measure it the opposite, which I've done before, your wires are shorter because the leads that are on the farther side need to run farther than the ones that are on the inside that need to run shorter. So again, I'm skipped through all the tedious wiring, measuring, and soldering, and there we have it. Finished. All of it's upside down because that's the way it's going to be placed under the underside of those caps on the inside, and here we go. I'm going to clean up and just remove these lights after the soldering is done. I'm going to flip it over, go ahead and drill a hole right here as close as we can get it to the corner. Always vacuum that dust up, don't blow it. There we go, grab my vacuum. You don't want that stuff flying around. Open that hole up a little bit more, and then we're going to go ahead and just vacuum again. And we'll screw this down. This is our power source. Plug up our power, and then gonna give it a test. Still make sure none of the connections broke loose. That'll happen too if you have a bad solder connection breaks loose. And that's it. Remove the paper on the backside to expose the adhesive part, and you just run around, keep the wires tight, and go all the way around the inside lip of the floor. And I'm trying to pull the wires that I put in there as tight as possible. You'll see some of them hanging down, and I don't show myself doing the hot glue and putting the wires down as far as I can. You can see some wires here, but I hot glue them down. Yeah, you can see some of them hanging there, and then all the way down to the end. Now it's time to do the center of the floor. And again, I'm going to drill a hole down at the bottom of the floor at the triangle as close as I can get it. Vacuum again. Make sure to leave my long leads down at the bottom there and feed them through the hole and now through the bottom. And I usually run a channel on here to keep it clean, but I was in such a rush to get this done. I only had 3 days, and you know, having to do this after work is you know, I was working till 1 in the morning those 3 days trying to get this one piece done. Not getting into the garage until 9:30. So remove that coating on top, get that cut off, expose those soldering points. Add a little bit of flux to there, you don't need much. Soldering pin, we're going to go ahead and put a little solder on there. I always like to add a little flux to the end of the wires, just helps. There we go. Back under. And I get all that hot glued. I'll get that wire as well hot glued down and painted white so you don't see it. And there we go. You don't notice it there. You do see the diodes, but I promise you when these lights are off and this thing is on, there it goes. You don't see the diodes anymore and that thing just glows. Glows. I'll just run through a couple of the different color changes. There we go with the blue. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that 0 that I had earlier. We'll pop that one up. I'll get it plugged in for you guys. Now if you see in the left corner, that small little black dot, that's where my, and I adjust the camera to make sure I could try to get it in the center there. But that's where the sensors are at, and you know, they're barely noticeable. You never pick them up in the photos when they're taking photos. And I'll start flipping through the color changing, how they're flipping. If they're close enough, you can use one remote. And if you're far enough back to where both of those receivers receive the remote, you can get them to blink exactly the same. You can get them to change the colors at the same time. And there we go, matching lights. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed this video here with the Galaxy Garage as we took this unexpected turn. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, leave me a comment down below. Maybe you guys would like to see the template or a little bit more detail on how I built this. And like we always do in the garage, just build something.